All
Hey
right.
everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Market Hotel in Brooklyn. It's absolutely beautiful in here.
Yeah.
And today we are here with Tristan of Arthur and Punisher. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Yep.
happy to be back in New York.
Yep, it's great to have you back here. We finally have an industrial artist too, so you're the first industrial artist.
All right.
Yeah.
Am I industrial? I guess maybe.
From hearing you out there, I saw a lot of reminiscence. Like when I heard Beastland, your latest record,
Yeah.
instantly, first thing that came to my mind was Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste.
There we go. That's the good era right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a big Ministry fan too. So, but your latest record is Beastland, first record on Relapse.
Mhm.
How was the making of it?
Man, it was pretty brutal. I have to say, like it was a short time frame, and just worked with a bunch of new gear. I had built some new machines for this album. It was only in a few months, we put it together. But I'm happy with how it came out. Sometimes when you're under fire, under high stress, things kind of find their way. Find the best way.
Yes, use pain as a paintbrush, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do better when I'm kind of under fire, like on stage. I don't get stressed when I have technical problems.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do this. It's adrenaline a little bit.
Yeah, the best concept of any music to me is to just plug it in and play, right?
Yeah, you can't be too worried about what other people think. There'll always be another show, so just get up there and fucking hit it hard.
Exactly. What I was always curious about with your music is I could tell that it's very experimental. So does that make it a little bit easier to try new things in your music?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much started out as like a drone guy, playing more like art festivals and things like that. So I had already come out and said, this is what I do. I make noise. And so from there, anything's going to sound better, to most people.
Well, for the style that you play, I've always said that this is the type of music you could hear in like an art gallery, but you could also hear at a concert. I think you have the best of both worlds.
It is, yeah. You get to play. It is, sometimes you get nicer hotels when you stay in museum, when you play at museums.
That is very
They
true.
have the nice soaps and things.
Now, what I was always curious about with your music is there ever something that like comes first when making it? Like, how do you determine that this is the right noise?
I mean, it's funny. Every synth I've gotten over the years, or software, or VST, that I use with my gear that I built, I always end up kind of finding the same sound, whether it's Electron synth or some Ableton or Native Instruments stuff. Like, I pretty much like tweak it, and by the end, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like how I want it. But they all kind of sound the same, and they have different qualities. So I don't remember the question really, but that's kind of my process. Is I just find my way to this tone that I always want. It's got to have these elements of crunch, a lot of sub, and maybe like something a little growly.
Any compression or equalizing in there?
I mean, yeah, there's some equalizing. I'll throw some bass on. More recently, I've started to, instead of taking one tone and trying to cover the whole range, I'll kind of split it out, take a sub bass synth and throw that on the bottom, and that is a separate input to the mixing board, so he can really crank the sub when we need to without affecting any of the other channels and garbling them up.
Is there a specific amount of channels that you need?
Right now I'm running like 12 channels.
Okay.
But I used to just do a stereo input from the computer, and then it's like, in the middle of the set, your front of house engineer can't turn your kick up. He doesn't have that option. So now I just give them all that. So it's actually like a full band. When you hear me, you're hearing all the separate channels run through different, because sometimes they've got a good compressor for the kick drum, or they've already got that stuff set up.
Yeah. You know what I've noticed is because I work in pro audio as well, Black Line Audio is actually my family business. I don't know if you've heard of them, but, like every year when I go to NAMM or the AES convention, there's new gear coming out left and right. Like pro audio gear is like a never-ending organism. So with evolving pro audio gear, does that open up more doors to further experiment with your sound? Yeah,
I mean, also just the synth revolution that has happened in the last 10 years or whatever. The DIY, the fact that you can build your own synths. I built my own speakers for a long time. The couple that you see on stage I built, they're not very good ones, but that whole world is, I think, just the fact that a lot of these fabrication methods are becoming like affordable for a lot of people, like desktop CNCs and 3D printers, and You can print your own circuit boards, Arduino, Raspberry Pi. All these devices are a little easier to use. Yeah. And I think in the pro audio world too, people are like, oh yeah, I can build my own speaker now. I don't have to buy this stupid piece of shit from Guitar Center for double the price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that can also allow more people who might want to do what you do to. It's more inviting for people to get involved.
Absolutely. If anyone ever wanted to build something, although I have gotten some emails recently about how to build stuff, and I just haven't had time to delve into it with people. When 5 years ago, I would definitely respond to all those emails and say, hey, this is how you build it. Here's the code. Here's the, this is how I would do that. But it's a little harder now. And I just can't respond as much.
Yeah. But. Now, when you're making your music in the studio or in a practice space or whatever, and from watching videos of you live and everything like that, it seems that your live presence there's just as much emphasis on that as the music. For you, when you're making this music in the studio, how different of a fulfillment is versus playing it live? How different are you experiencing?
I mean, I really enjoy recording in the studio. I mean, I pretty much play it live in the studio. Of course, I go back and I fix it. And, there's little mishits and things like that. But I really, I still feel the power when I'm like in the studio making these tracks as much as I do live. You don't feel it quite as much like with the room. Like but it was actually pretty much the same process. I learned how to craft this sound while in the studio, taking synths, running them out through guitar amps and, which one sounds the best, which bass cabinet can I run it through, and then mic. Couple that with the direct synth, and so it's pretty much the same process. I don't drool as much in the studio.
Well, I find it interesting because being that you have such an emphasis on the live shows, well, I'd imagine that with every venue that you play, it's also a completely different experience, right?
Yeah, it's a bummer when they don't have the subs. I'll tell you, I don't get into it as much when I show up to a place and there's like two 15-inch subs that have carpet on them. I'm super bummed, and I usually have to go walk around for a while. And we're gonna try to blow those things if they're that way, because there's just no way we're gonna get enough out of them.
I was just hearing you sound check. You're gonna blow a lot of shit tonight.
We're not gonna blow anything. We make sure we will hit right up to the red line, but that's the requirement. We have to push the bass as hard as possible.
Yeah. Now, I have two more questions for you, but I know that from researching you that you have a background in engineering as well. So, and you just mentioned how you build your own speakers and stuff. It's fair to say that your background in engineering helps you influence your music as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much why I created Author and Punisher, because I do have I have some creative energy in that world. I like building things and solving problems beyond just guitar and drums. That problem for me was a social problem. Like, you had to figure out how to deal with people and how to deal with people's problems. And this drummer smokes too much weed and he spends all his money on weed, but he can't pay for the practice space. This guy's got a kid, his girlfriend's a pain in the ass. So that was like, I was like, man, this is not the type of engineering I want to do. I want to solve problems for my gear. You only have these like core years when you have this energy. And I just was like, fuck it, I'm not going to play with a band anymore. Yeah. And that's why I don't do collaborations, mostly because I don't want to get myself into those positions where I'm solving human problems. I just want to work on the gear and work on the music.
If you get Al Jurgensen on a track, though, that'll sound pretty fucking badass.
Well, that might be some social engineering there too. No, I don't know. I've never met the guy, so that would be cool.
And it's fair to say, because it's just you, whatever you say goes. You don't really take any exterior input.
Well, I had a producer on this album, and I absolutely he contributed greatly. This guy Braden Diode, he's from San Diego. He tours around with Neurosis and Faust, and he's an industrial guy too. He's got a project called Exo Endo. Check him out. They got an album coming out soon, and he really he basically took the songs and said, hey, I got an idea here. Let's put a lead right here. Let's reformat this. And I was like, okay. Sometimes I didn't listen to him, but I absolutely take advice. This album went through another guy's, Jason Began, Vitair. He took a lot of my electronic stuff, put it through his gear, and said, hey, this would sound cool if we put this through this other synth and this modular rig. So in that sense, I do, But I guess for the most part, I reach out to people if I need help with stuff,
Yeah. but you have more creative freedom because
Yeah.
it's just you. Whatever you say goes.
It's also time, you know. You only have so much time in a day, and when you get home to practice, you know, I really, you know, I've got a family, and I got a job. I work in a lab doing research, and when I know I have 3 hours of practice, I want to get there and I want to work on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to fuck around with anything.
And, you know, there's always one member of every band who's an hour late too every time.
Yeah, an hour late, and it's fun too. There's people down there, and we hang out, but they're not my band, so you know I can kick them out of the studio whenever I want.
Awesome. And the final question I'd like to ask you is how do you know when a song is finished?
Oh man, I think I used to not know that as much, but I think now I can. Like when I was working with this team, like when I'd show them my skeleton of the song, like here are all the parts. Here's the intro. Here's what I'm thinking for an outro. I think some of them were like, this sounds a little too simple. But I know that core, I'm playing synth with my left hand, bass lines. My right hand is doing drums and vocals. If I get those, I can hear the other things that I'm going to do on top of it, the sequence that I'll add. And once I get that core bass vocal all in unison, and I know a few different parts, I'm done. I know it's done.
Yeah, that's a good way. I always get like a 2-hour-long philosophical thing about it, and I'm just like, I think you have the best answer.
You gotta have hooks, you know. I really, it's gotta have a hook. I am, as much as people don't think, I do write verses and choruses, you know, just like everybody else. It's, you know, it's pop song format. I don't mean to do that, but it works, and it feels comfortable to me.
Yeah, simplest explanation is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You know, Beastland has been out now for just about a month or a little bit over a month.
Yep,
so,
a little over a month, yeah.
Is there just anything touring-wise that you'd like to promote or any other new music that you'd like to
man, we're doing about another 10 dates with just the Body through the Midwest, and then we'll go down the West Coast with the Body Uniform collaboration. Street Sex is coming in on that one.
Oh, they're awesome. They just played at St. Vitus. They're so good.
Yeah, they're killing it right now. I'm really happy for those guys. And then we'll be going to Europe in April, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tristan.
Sir.
Everybody, Tristan of Author and Punisher. Be sure to pick up Beastland out on Relapse Records if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.